Ready to enjoy a new story built around Red Dead Redemption 2 Van Der Linde gang? Let's go.
In 1899 and follows the story of Arthur Morgan, a member of the Van Der Linde gang. The gang is pursued by law enforcement after a botched heist in Blackwater, and they must navigate a changing world while evading the law and struggling with internal conflicts. Arthur's journey leads him to question his loyalty to the gang and its leader, Dutch Van Der Linde, as he faces moral dilemmas and seeks redemption for his past actions.
Chapter 1. A Bitter Winter. The snowstorm howled relentlessly around Arthur Morgan as he urged his horse onward, the biting wind cutting through the layers of his worn coat. He glanced back at the weary faces of the Van Der Linde gang trudging behind him, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and determination. Dutch, their charismatic leader, rode beside Arthur, his face obscured by a thick scarf to protect him from the icy air.
"Arthur, we can't be much further,"
Dutch shouted over the wind.
"The old mining town should be just ahead."
Arthur nodded, though the doubt gnawing at him was almost as fierce as the storm. It had been days since they'd fled Blackwater, their disastrous heist leaving a trail of death and betrayal in its wake. He wondered whether they would ever escape the relentless pursuit of the law, the Pinkertons nipping at their heels like hungry wolves. As they crested a snow-covered hill, the skeletal remains of the abandoned town of Coulter loomed into view. The wind moaned through the empty buildings, creating an eerie chorus that sent a shiver down Arthur's spine. The gang moved into the town, seeking shelter from the storm in the largest building, a dilapidated saloon. Inside, the air was stale and the room dark, but it offered a temporary haven from the merciless weather. Dutch began delegating tasks to the gang members, his voice firm and confident.
"Charles, see if there's any firewood around. Lenny, Micah, start rounding up the horses. And Arthur,"
He looked at his protege, his eyes filled with trust.
"you and Hosea find us something to eat. We're all starving."
Arthur nodded and pulled Hosea aside, his brows furrowed with worry.
"We can't stay here long, Hosea. We've got the Pinkertons on our tail, and the weather ain't gonna hold them off forever."
Hosea, a seasoned and wise member of the gang, looked at Arthur with understanding.
"We'll figure something out, Arthur. We always do."
Their search for food led them to a small homestead nestled in the nearby hills. Arthur's instincts warned him of the danger they could be walking into, but he knew they had little choice. As they approached, a sense of unease settled over him, the snow-muffled silence broken only by the distant howling of wolves. The door of the homestead hung open, its hinges creaking mournfully in the wind. Inside, the grisly scene that met their eyes confirmed Arthur's worst fears. The occupants lay sprawled across the floor, their lifeless bodies bearing the unmistakable signs of a brutal struggle.
"It's the work of the O'Driscolls,"
Hosea murmured, rage simmering beneath his calm demeanor.
"We need to be careful, Arthur. They could still be nearby."
Arthur clenched his fists, anger flaring at the sight of the innocent family caught in the crossfire of a gang war. They searched the homestead, finding a crumpled note with a crudely drawn map that hinted at the location of an O'Driscoll camp.
"This could be our ticket to some much-needed supplies, Arthur.
Hosea said, studying the map.
But it's also a chance to avenge these poor souls."
Arthur's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with resolve.
"We'll bring those O'Driscolls to justice, for them and for us."
Back at the saloon, the gang had managed to start a fire, its flickering light casting dancing shadows across the tired faces huddled around it. Dutch listened intently as Arthur and Hosea relayed their findings, his eyes narrowing at the mention of the O'Driscolls.
"We need to deal with them, and soon.
Dutch declared, his voice low and dangerous.
But we can't risk leaving the camp unguarded. Arthur, you'll lead a small group to that camp. Hosea, you'll stay here and keep an eye on things."
Arthur nodded, knowing the weight of responsibility that had just been placed on his shoulders. He selected Charles, Lenny, and Sadie, the latter eager to prove herself after the tragic loss of her husband during the Blackwater job. They set out under the cover of darkness, the snowfall lessening as the storm finally began to subside. The journey to the O'Driscoll camp was fraught with tension, the ever-present threat of an ambush keeping the group on edge. Arthur led the way, his eyes constantly scanning the surrounding landscape for any sign of danger. As they neared the camp, they spotted the flickering glow of a campfire, its light casting sinister shadows on the surrounding trees. Arthur signaled for the group to dismount, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer of snow as they approached the camp on foot. Hidden behind a fallen log, they observed the O'Driscolls, their raucous laughter and drunken singing cutting through the night air. Arthur studied the camp, his mind racing as he formulated a plan. He turned to his companions, his voice barely above a whisper.
Sadie, you and Lenny circle around to the right. Charles, you're with me. We'll create a distraction, then take them out as quickly as possible.
The group split up, their hearts pounding as they crept closer to the enemy. Arthur and Charles moved into position, a well-aimed throw from Arthur sending a rock clattering across the camp. As the O'Driscolls scrambled to investigate, Sadie and Lenny struck from the shadows, their shots ringing out like the crack of a whip. The battle was swift and brutal, the element of surprise giving Arthur's group the upper hand. As the last of the O'Driscolls fell, Arthur surveyed the camp, his face grim.
Search the bodies and grab anything of value. We need to get back to the others.
The group returned to Coulter, their horses laden with supplies and ammunition. Dutch greeted them with a nod, his eyes betraying a flicker of pride.
Good work, Arthur. We've bought ourselves some time.
As the gang settled in for the night, Arthur couldn't shake the feeling of unease that clung to him like a shroud. He knew they were still a long way from safety, the specter of their past mistakes haunting them at every turn. But as he looked around at his fellow gang members, their faces lit by the fire's warm glow, he knew they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together, united by their shared bond and the desperate hope of redemption. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Sadie opened up to Arthur about her life before joining the gang. She spoke of her loving husband, their modest homestead, and the dreams they'd shared before tragedy had torn them apart. Arthur listened in silence, the weight of her words a reminder of the fragility of the world they inhabited.
I lost everything, Arthur.
Sadie whispered.
But I won't let that define me. I won't let my grief consume me. I'm going to fight for the life I want, for the future I deserve.
Her voice thick with emotion. Arthur nodded, his eyes meeting hers with a fierce determination that mirrored her own. As the days turned to weeks, the gang continued to strengthen their position, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They hunted, fished, and foraged, their hard work and resourcefulness ensuring their survival in the unforgiving wilderness. But the specter of danger was ever present, a shadow that loomed over them like a dark cloud. One day, as Arthur and Charles patrolled the perimeter of the camp, they stumbled upon a grisly scene. The mutilated bodies of two O'Driscolls, their lifeless eyes staring blankly at the sky.
This is a message,
Charles said grimly, his voice tinged with anger.
They're trying to intimidate us.
Arthur clenched his fists, his jaw tightening as he fought to control his rage.
We won't let them win, Charles. We'll protect our own, no matter what it takes.
As the gang gathered to discuss their next move, Dutch's voice rang out with unwavering conviction.
We will not be cowed by their threats. We will not be broken by their violence. We will stand together, united in our purpose, and we will forge a path to a better life.
The gang members exchanged solemn looks, their resolve strengthened by Dutch's impassioned speech. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and heartache, but they also knew that they had one another, their shared bond a beacon of hope in the darkness that surrounded them. Chapter 1 of Redemption's Shadow ends on a note of defiance, the Van Der Linde gang determined to face the challenges ahead with courage and unity. The slow build-up and heavy dialogue serve to deepen the reader's understanding of the characters and their motivations, while the world-building and vivid descriptions create an immersive setting that will leave readers eager to explore the world of the Van Der Linde gang further. As the story unfolds, the gang must confront not only the threats posed by their enemies, but also the shadows of their own pasts, their journey a testament to the power of love, loyalty, and redemption in a world that often seems devoid of hope. As the sun set over the horizon, casting an orange glow across the sky, the members of the Van Der Linde gang dispersed to their respective tasks. The air was heavy with determination, each of them knowing the road ahead would be long and perilous. But they were not alone, and in their hearts, they carried the hope that together they could overcome the darkness and create a brighter future.
End of Red Dead Redemption 2 Chapter 1.
We hope you enjoy the first chapter of this captivating story. The script is written by ChatGPT, voice is generated by 11 Labs, and pictures are generated by Midjourney version 5. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the upcoming chapters. Thank you.